have on the line this is Diane Kastama. She's an awesome, amazing driver, and not just a para driver, but an amazing driver. And I think I first met you back in like 15 or 20 years ago at Southern Pines when you were competing, Diane.
Yeah, that would be 2008 was when I was back there. So
2008. So that was
12 years so.
ago. Wow. And you had an awesome service dog as well at that time too. So,
I did.
Tell us a little bit about your your service dog is with you right now, right?
Right. Let me see. There she is.
Awesome. She looks like she's and a lot of our students do have service dogs that help them out as well with their different chores, so or different things that they do. So getting into our questions that our students had for you. So how did you get started in carriage driving?
Well, I'd always been into horses, but I grew up in the city, and as a kid, I got horseback riding lessons out in the country all through high school. I never had my own horse or anything, but just rode. And then I graduated from college, and when I graduated from college, I actually bought my first horse and just wanted to do trail rides. And a year later, I was in a car accident, which made me paralyzed. I was 24 years old. And so I actually started to breed horses because with the babies, I didn't miss getting on and like riding them. And I did ride. I had a trail horse and I did ride him a year after my accident. I went to a therapeutic center and got a horse and reins in Bonsall, California, actually, and rode. But I really have this need for speed, you know. I was always worried being paralyzed of falling off. I always had sidewalkers. I couldn't be as independent as I wanted to be. So I kind of found out about driving. I had a friend who drove a Morgan at Morgan horse shows in the winter classes. And so I took my trail horse and bought a cart and a harness, and I hooked him up myself and crawled in the cart from my wheelchair.
Oh, no way. For the first time driving ever?
Yeah. And well, yeah. And then a local club, Heels and Wheels, which is defunct, was doing a series of 3 things, how to train your horse to drive. The first time they long lined, and then the second time, you know, they taught harnessing and long lining. And then the last lesson was they actually put you in a cart. And I did get into that cart and drove, but I think I had already been driving my own horse a little bit at that point. But yeah, I pretty much did it off of books. That was prior to this lovely internet that we have now. And so I just sort of did it. That horse turned out to not be a suitable driving horse.
But did you end up having a wreck, or what ended up happening?
It turns out he was blind, which we didn't really know. And I was riding him. My neighbor was 16 years old, and he actually built a ramp at my house that I used to get up on him. And so I rode him. And he was an Appaloosa, and he had uveitis in his eye.
Okay.
And so then we put the blinders on, and I don't know, I had the horse hooked up maybe 10 times. And I called a friend of mine and I said, okay, I'm ready to go down the road. And so she came over, and I mean, she was a friend that used to trail ride, and we had trail ridden him out down the road. And we went out, and he saw a pig. And the pig he reared up, and his leg came over the shaft, and it bent the shaft. And so my friend got out and started to unhook him. And I said, well, we're obviously not getting home this way. So I transferred out onto the ground. By then we've stopped rush hour traffic, and everyone thinks it's okay until I'm out on the ground and not getting up and walking. And so some guy actually gets out of his truck and says, can I help? And I said, yeah, I'm just paralyzed. And so anyways, yeah.
You realize that you were previously paralyzed, or like,
yes.
Did he freak out and think that you had like just gotten paralyzed?
Yeah, he really freaked out. And I said, no, this is me. I'm this way. And so he put me in his, they picked me up and put me in his truck. And anyways, I got home. And so, but then, so we discovered the horse was blind, and that was part of his problem. And so I moved on to a broodmare I had. I got a little smarter. I had a friend who trains paint horses and had done quarter horse driving at the breed shows. She helped me get her going driving, and I drove her. But then she was pregnant. And so then her first foal was 18 months old, 2 years old that I had. And I said, huh. And I'd done everything. I'd shown her halter from my wheelchair and everything at little local shows.
So cool.
Yeah. I had people push me, jogging them. Yeah, those were really good friends. Pushing me through the deep dirt, leading this weanling, who, of course, anyways, she was in Appaloosa also. And then, so I decided to teach her to drive, and I actually did it all by myself and called up another friend who came over, and we got her hooked. And then when she was 3, my friend with the Morgan talked me into going to the Morgan show in San Diego. So we went, and then that's where I met Jody Cutler, who is an ADS judge. And she had no clue I was in a wheelchair till she saw me in the barns. And so she talked me into going to the Driven Dressage Festival in Moore Park, where I met Hardy Zenke.
Okay.
And this was in 1998.
Okay.
And so that's when I really found out about the ADS. I found out about United States Driving for Disabled because Mickey Bowen was the current president and she was a judge.
Yeah.
They were getting ready to go to the first singles world championships in Austria, and Randy McFarland from California was going, and he was at this show. And so I met all these people, found out about combined driving, and that I could go fast, and that there was world championships for people with disabilities. And I said, I want to do that.
That's awesome. And you made it happen, which is so cool.
And so
you've gone so many times. It's so cool.
Yeah. And so that was 98. So, the first world championships I went to was in 2002. My horse was 3 years old in 98, which meant she couldn't do combined driving till she was 4. So I did not start competing in combined driving till 1999. The first 2 shows, well, the first show, my truck broke down on the way and I never got there. The second one, a guy ran a red light in front of me and I ran into him, but I was at the show. The third show I went prelim because I was trying to qualify for the 2000 Worlds for Disabled.
Okay.
The World Singles was supposed to be at Gladstone in 2000, and they were going to do a head-to-head thing of the drivers with disabilities. So my 4th show ever, I flew
to New Jersey,
Maryland,
okay,
and borrowed a pony from Sybil Ducart.
Okay.
And a cart from Mary Mott Kositz.
Yeah.
And we built a platform, and I showed at Gladstone.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Totally amazing.
So I didn't make the team because I really didn't have the experience, but I met Bill Long, gave me advice in the hazards. I met Chandler Irwin, and these are all just old names from ago, but that's what really got me into the sport, was doing that.
What an awesome journey, though. So sticking on sort of the competition questions, what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced at a competition here in the United States?
Actually, it's what kind of got me started in United States Driving for Disabled was that when I first started competing, I couldn't walk the courses.
Yeah.
And so my grooms used to have to go out into the obstacles and say, here's A, here's B, here's C. And I pretty much drove them blind.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so that was difficult. And I watched people walk cones, and that's how I learned the cones courses. So that was probably the biggest thing in the US. And then I worked tirelessly with both the ADS and the USCF at that time to get approval for us to use the motor vehicles to walk the courses.
Yeah. Which so many different drivers nowadays use them, which is awesome. So thank you for that contribution to the rest of your para group.
Right. Well, and the other thing is I like to know, like, if it's a show I have not been to. I call the organizer, I talk to other competitors, I find out what the terrain is like. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm in a wheelchair. I have mountain bike tires on my chair, which allows me to get around pretty well. But, you know, can I park on a level spot? And sometimes they'll park me in places that normally, you know, they wouldn't park a truck and trailer, like at Southern Pines. Everyone's like, oh my God, they allowed you to park it inside this fence. They'll never let you park there. And they did, because it was right in front of my stalls. And so it made it easy for me to access my horses.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's the hard part. You know, it's a horse show. It's on dirt.
Just as like a background for some of the people that are watching, so combined driving is a 3-phase event that has your dressage first, which is a driven, all of our phases are driven. And then we have our hazards, which are next. So with a set course that you have to go on, and then you have hazards in between that you try to run around them as fast as possible. Run. And it's a timed event. So you try to get through the gates in the correct order without going through the wrong ones first. It's all about speed. And what's the fastest way for you and your horse to get through them. And then the third phase is the third day of competition, which is the cones. And then you have a little bit of space on either side of your wheels, and there's a ball on top of each cone that you try not to knock off. And it's kind of like knocking down a rail for stadium jumping. So just a little bit of background. So sorry if you didn't know what combined driving was, guys.
There it is in a nutshell.
But anyway, so sorry, Diane. So for competing in Europe, what were your biggest challenges?
Finding accessible places to stay.
Okay.
It's the internet. Like whenever I find when there's a world championships, and if I'm thinking of going, or if I can make the team, I'll pretty much start searching as soon as I know where it is, looking. Okay. Internet's a great place. You don't assume, and you know, it's all comes down to money too, trying to find a place to stay that is accessible and that you can afford. I've learned tricks over the over the years about what to search for. Okay, and I know there's probably kids on this, but I actually once, and I did not stay there, I'm putting this, but there was a nudist campground that had an accessible cottage, which I thought I might have to stay at, but luckily I didn't. Yeah. So anyways,
and that was really close to the horse show?
No, it was actually close to Costa Rons.
Okay.
Actually, when I was looking for training for a place to stay.
In the Netherlands, for those who don't know Coast.
Yes. So anyways, so it really is trying to make it easy on you, because when you travel and you have a disability, it's 2 or 3 times harder for you to travel than it is if you don't.
Sure.
and I shipped my carriage and my stuff. I've shipped my horse. I've leased horses. I've learned that here at home, I do everything myself. I harness and hitch a horse and can have someone who knows nothing help me drive, which happened this morning, actually. A different neighbor helped me. And, but when I'm in Europe, I need a groom that can do it.
Yeah.
Because first off, I'm leasing a horse. The horse doesn't.
No wheelchair.
Yeah, no wheelchair. Turns out most driving horses could care less about you know, you don't know. You don't know if they're going to stand still long enough for me to get in the carriage. So I get in the carriage first, and then people take the horse afterwards. So I have to go. I took this last time. I took my niece who had just graduated from high school and didn't know what she was going to do. And she's a jumper rider.
Okay.
And knows nothing about driving. She lives 300 miles from me. Other than she, drove my horse a couple of times, and a couple of times she's helped me drive, but we don't see each other a lot. But she was a horse person. And so she learned in a day, though, she learned how to hitch the horse. So it wasn't a problem. She doesn't know the names of any of the straps, but she knows what order she needs to do it in and could do it.
And you can give good direction too from the box.
Right. You can. And, and it wasn't the first time, we hitched, we had other grooms around because I was leasing a horse and stuff. So there was help. And so she got it figured out pretty quick. It's not rocket science. And as long as, you're watching. So, that was, so that was a little different. So that's a big challenge getting around. Here it's pretty easy to rent golf carts. In Europe it's been difficult, so it's trying to find that. And in Europe, all the Europeans just bring their own, right? Their ATV
or their little bicycles. Yeah.
And here we have to find them over there. And so sometimes we've been successful with golf carts. Once there was a scooter manufacturer vendor, and he let us use those. Sometimes we've been at an event where there was one golf cart for any one of the competitors to use of all the countries. So you had to sign up for times to use it. So, so that can be very challenging. So you have to learn. I've had my lift on my carriage fail right before cones course.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So how did you end up getting your seat into where it needed to go?
Well, I am really good at, I've taken apart my whole carriage. And so I was able to instruct at this time. It was Keedy and Randy Cadwell had gone with us. And I instructed Randy on how to take apart the bolts, and we disconnected the actuator. And then I got in the seat. And I got in the seat when it was low. And then about 5 people lifted both the seat and me up into position and turned it and latched it.
Wow.
So
and that's right before cones of the World Championships. Oh.
Yes.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so I was a little stressed for cones.
I'm sure. And then how did you get to figure out where cone, so did you get to study cones beforehand and get to figure that all out, and then you came in to get to drive? Did you have 2 minutes of warm-up time then?
It was okay. I'd gotten the cones walked. This was actually an event where we were using the scooters, and the cones course was open 8:30 to 9:30 to walk, but the scooter vendor didn't open until 9.
How I deal with that stress? Oh my goodness!
Holy cow! Started out on the course with my groom pushing me, but the groom's not allowed to be on the course and walk the course at that time. So then my dad was pushing me, and then everyone was pushing me to start until the scooter became available. So I probably walked the course 3 times prior, and then to go back and find the carriage broken. So.
Oh dear. So then
Yeah.
you have like different meditation that you do, or how do you like once you got back in the carriage and like we're all hitched and driving over to cones, how did you like get your brain back to like, okay, I gotta focus on cones and I gotta go drive and I gotta forget about everything else?
Well, I was lucky this time. I had shipped my own horse. So I was driving my own horse. And he was a really good cones horse. So I had faith in my horse as long as I could steer him. I just,
Does he get strong on cones day or like, or does he
I
back
just,
off or
the thing
lose
is
it?
the more pressure you give me, the better driver I am.
Okay, that's
So
awesome.
I do well under pressure. I want to know how many balls, I want to know the
Where
points.
you're at. Yeah.
I want to know. I want you to tell me when that person goes, did he give me any room? Do I have to go clean? And I want to know like right before I go in. I mean, I don't care. Tell me. Um, I'm a
Yeah,
little
and I'm totally opposite. I don't want to like I want to know that I've got a little bit of space, but I don't want to know like what the other guy did. I just want to go in and try my own course. And
yeah.
like, the best I can.
Um,
But
and so I went in and I drove it. I came home with an individual bronze from that show.
yeah,
I possibly could have gotten silver if I had known, but I did not know going in how good I had to be. They mixed the grades. They mixed grade 1 and grade 2 drivers.
okay,
And so, and they did it based on where they were, but they award the awards grade 1, grade 2.
okay,
And so it was difficult. I didn't need to know how the person before me did. I needed to know how the person, two
like
people before me did.
okay,
And because of the whole drama with the carriage, which took the coach and the chef to keep and everyone's time, we didn't have that running.
tally of like where everyone was at.
Right. We didn't have the running tally. So, but I mean, we still did good. So, so that might be maybe the biggest drama.
Um, hey, so do you mind explaining the different grades for driving? So driving just has two grades, correct?
Correct. So driving has 2 grades. Grade 1 is the most disabled, and grade 2 is not as disabled. So basically, for an easy thing, grade 1, if you're in a wheelchair, almost all grade 1 drivers are in wheelchairs. It's not to say that there aren't some who aren't. And the other way around, there are some grade 2s. So that's kind of, but most of the grade 2s are ambulatory, can walk around.
Okay.
But you'll have like MS, you'll have some of the people with MS are grade 1, some are grade 2, depending on, and so they might not always be in a wheelchair, but they're still grade 1 because their whole body is, they're disabled throughout their whole body, whereas I'm paralyzed, so my legs don't work. But my arms and hands are full strength. So it's slightly complicated, but that's kind of how it is.
Okay. No, that totally makes sense. Thanks for clarifying those. We had a question about that. So I think you sort of answered the question of how do you handle the last minute matters at a competition.
There
like,
you go. Yeah.
Drive when the like things go wrong. You can be like, okay, no problem. I can handle that. And you just go with the flow, or like, how do you you just take them as they roll?
Right. You take it as it rolls. I mean, first World Championships we went down. I flew out of Los Angeles and I was staying at, my folks were going with me, and I was staying at the hotel flying out the next day, and I had a flat tire on my wheelchair. And I had no pump. I had shifted the pump with my carriage. So my dad actually had to go out and find me a pump, and I had a spare tube, and I had to fix the flat on my wheelchair. So um it's what you do with anything, right? I mean, any piece of equipment, you just kind of, but that's how I've been, is just sometimes you have to think outside the box to resolve an issue. Um, but I'm always thinking that and trying to explain to someone, okay, this is what you have to do.
No, that totally makes sense. Um, for ooh, I'm debating about Karen, like whether or not we try to get through. I'm just afraid if you move too much and we lose you, I'm just trying to get
Right.
through a bunch of those questions before we head into your barn and take a look at your carriage. Um, so how do you challenge yourself in driving, or how do you stay interested? Or what does driving do for you?
Um, everything. I love a challenge. What I like about combined driving is I can go fast, which I like, but actually I find that for years I wanted a dressage and cones horse, because the marathon sort of scares me, because there's the most risk at the marathon. And so I want to win dressage and cones and hold my own on the marathon, not make any mistakes. But now I want a marathon horse. And that came because the horse I drove at the last World Championships was is the leader in Costa Ron's indoor team.
Okay.
And,
And that must
and
have been so fun to go so fast.
yeah, and just go. And so, but I'm not bored. I can work weeks just in the same arena, even not go out on the street, because I'm always schooling my horse or schooling me. Um my horses maybe get a little burnt out from me. And so a lot of times I have to back off. I have one horse now that, I mean, I have him ridden once a week because I'm too intense for him in that sense, and he just shuts down because I'm always, no, you got to do this, you got to do that. I want to perfect this, and so that's, in some ways, that's what's kept it interesting, is I've had to recognize that, I live in California. I can drive 365 days of the year, so my horses are never out of work. So I have to give them time off, or just have relaxing. So maybe they maybe only get worked 3 days a week, 3 or 4 days a week, but that's all year round.
Right.
So that somehow manages to keep them going. Whereas personally, if I could, I'd drive both horses 7 days a week.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that.
So that's a good thing I have too, right? And so to keep I've never found it dull, I guess. So that it's a hard question for me to say, how do I keep it interesting? Because it's never boring to me.
Well, and it sounds like you challenge yourself by testing yourself at different levels. You have competed all the way up to the advanced level against able-bodied drivers as well, and done really quite well at that as well. So going up the levels in competition gives you a way of seeing where you're at and where your horses are at, and having people sort of give you an update on where you're at.
Right.
Competition wise. I mean, I know like horse shows in California, just like on the East Coast, are sort of dwindling. However, we do have other ways of working towards a goal of getting to a horse show, correct?
Yes. we all always have goals, and I've driven pair, which is side by side, for those don't know, and tandem, which is one in front of the other. I've competed both of those, actually all the way to the advanced level.
No way, that's awesome.
And so I've done that to challenge myself. And I actually haven't driven tandem in a while, and I'm wondering if my new horse would probably be a good leader. I don't know if the lazy horse will make a good wheeler though.
The new horse will probably be like, come on, let's go.
But I can always go pick up my retired horses leased out right now to a gentleman that's just driving him around the neighborhood, and I could go. He's only 15 miles from me. He's a great wheeler. He was my wheeler when I competed. I could go just pick him up and try tandem with the other one.
Oh, that's awesome. So what modifications have you made to your carriage or to your barn or extra additional equipment that you use?
Okay, well, I'll change my face away. So
Okay.
there's the dog. Okay. Asleep. And see all this lovely concrete. So that's my sidewalk up to the house.
Okay.
There's the house. So I've poured concrete everywhere. And then as I come around, this slopes down. But see, this is my horse trailer.
Hello, horse trailer.
My truck is in front of it.
Yeah.
And I have the horse trailer is actually back so that the back door. Now, this is something because you East Coast people, and I hate to say this, but we out here in the West, here's my horse trailer.
Yeah.
The sidewalk, okay, have step up trailers. We don't have ramps.
Right.
And at first you might think that that's a weird thing for someone in a wheelchair because you'd think, oh, why wouldn't she want a ramp on her trailer? Well, if I had a ramp, I can't put the ramp up.
Right.
Okay? I can't reach up to shut upper door. See, here's my arm. I can't reach up there.
Okay.
I can't latch.
Thought of that. Okay.
It would be difficult. And also, when you're loading a horse with a ramp, if they don't, where do I go with the wheelchair? So I go right where I am now, right here at the side, and my door opens. It's a big door. And the horse goes in. I can shut the butt bar. If I had a ramp, I wouldn't be able to do the butt bar.
Oh, definitely.
Because it's too steep.
Yeah.
And I couldn't undo it. And so I load and unload my horses all by myself. They all jump in. I do the butt bars and I shut the door. I don't know. I could try and open this. It's on a hill because it slopes down. But so here's the inside of my trailer.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Butt bar, big stall.
Yeah. Cool.
So you can see how close my chair. See, here's my leg.
Yeah.
I can get to it all and then open it. And then shut it. So that's all I can do. And then hopefully, come here, Amber. If I roll around this is my barn. Boom, right there at the end of the barn. But
so close for you. That's awesome.
Oh yeah. I didn't go very far. The house, the barn. This is California. Everything's close. So this is the other side of the trailer, and there at the front, my carriage goes in the side. I don't know if you see this.
Yeah, I can see the big door at the very end of the wheels.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure whether I'll lose you if I went there. So,
there.
And so this is a big metal building, and I'm going to show you where we wheel forward. And so my stalls are right inside this door.
Okay.
So there's one stall, and then there's another stall on the other side.
Okay.
There's a big loft, which I don't go up in the big loft, but I keep my horses are in at night in these two stalls, and they're 12 by 14 stalls. They're really big.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to show you the inside because I haven't cleaned them yet.
It looks like you clean your own stalls with your wheelchair then?
Yeah. So there.
Oh, we're starting to lose you now. Oh no, we lost you.
There, you can see there's my little.
Okay, we're starting to lose you a little.
All right, you might be losing me.
Okay, now I've got you back.
Okay, am I back?
Yep, you're back now.
Okay, so there's my little wheelbarrow. It goes on my lap, and I clean my stalls and dump it.
Okay, that's awesome.
Oh, the horses are in that turnout. There's a big red. My arena is down below. I don't know if you can see. There looks like a lake in it right now.
Okay.
way down at the bottom
Is there
of the
actually
hill.
light in your ring
And
right now, or
so,
is it just dark? Oh, okay.
what'd you
I
ask?
think I lost you again.
Oh, okay. Here, let me back up.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but maybe I can show you from this side of the truck because we were okay on this side.
Yeah, we
Um,
great on that side.
so there's my arena is down below there.
Oh,
You
okay,
can see
cool.
kind of water. So I have a big bank and it drops down and there's my arena. So I have 2.5 acres.
Okay.
Um, so we've got the house and then the truck and trailer, and then I have a road
Oh, losing you.
all the way around the house. This kind of gravel
Okay.
road.
Okay.
Are you there?
Oh,
Okay.
yep. I think we're there.
Okay.
We're back. I think.
Okay. Are we back? I can hear you.
Oh, cool. Awesome. So then, so your carriage is totally adaptable for you. And
But I don't think I'll make it back to where the carriage is because we're already been having issues. But I can always send you pictures that you can then send out to everyone.
okay.
The carriage has the seat. So it's a marathon style vehicle, and the seat rotates
Okay.
and it lowers down to where the groom stands.
Fine.
And then I transfer on and it goes back up.
Now, who designed your carriage?
Actually, a gentleman named Paul Milton Carriage Works, was by Reno, Nevada.
Okay.
He made my first carriage, which I used for many years and is now being used. We use it for clinics we've done for USDFD.
Oh, we're losing.
You're losing me?
Yeah, a little.
He designed it.
Okay.
And then Walt Ashford, who restores a lot of carriages, he ended up maintaining it and refining it because it was more of a prototype. And I used that. That was the carriage I used when you met me.
In 2008.
Then I had a pair carriage.
Oh,
Yeah.
we lost you again.
Yeah. And then you did lose me again?
Yeah,
I wonder maybe I should try to go up closer to the house.
Or however you were at the beginning was perfect. Maybe
I know, but that was right where I was.
But maybe the phone needed to be facing towards you instead of away from you.
Or maybe I need to change. I don't know. So, are you there?
Yeah, that is actually much better. So what experiences have best helped prepare you to compete at the elite level? Oh no, now you're
awesome.
Just compete.
Okay, let me move.
Now.
Hang on.
Okay.
Let me move. I try not to drop my phone because it is up a hill.
You have beautiful white puffy clouds there right now. Oh dear. I think we might have lost it. No, maybe not. Come back, maybe.
I figure that's going to get better with the Wi-Fi, because down at the barn it has to struggle between data and Wi-Fi.
That sounds much better right where you're at, actually.
Okay. All right, well then I'll stop. You can still see the clouds.
But we can still see clouds and a pretty tree right behind you as well.
Okay, so what was the question? Was the elite level
what experiences have best helped to prepare you to compete at the elite level?
Competing, but also competed at that level, and just not being afraid to do it, to go for it. And setting goals. I set goals. Well, that's.
Oh dear. I think we lost you again.
And so if I say that's what I want to do.
Okay, we've lost you again. I'm really sorry. We lost you.
Because I had only driven really my Appaloosa, who didn't really do a great job at the sport. And so I drove one of Hardy's horses. I drove this Fred Walt who modified my second carriage for me. He had an advanced single horse. I drove it. I drove someone else's lesson horse. I just made a point of driving as many horses as I could, since I was going to be driving a strange horse. Now I drive different, now I've driven so many horses that isn't as big of a deal. But when you're first, it was though when you first did it, because you're comfortable with your own horse.
Yeah, definitely. That makes sense. What was your most memorable experience at a World Championships?
Oh, winning the gold.
I'm sure. So tell us about that horse show.
So that was, I won dressage. And do you know Josh Rector?
Yes. Yep. He lives in Virginia now.
Right. Yeah. So Josh Rector was my groom, navigated for me. And I had someone else ride for dressage though, but because he was a big guy. And I needed someone to braid the horse for me. Pale Palmer Miller was our coach that year, but she was also acting chef to Pete. And so she had told Josh that he could, if he braided my horse, she would have time to fix it, but she didn't have time to braid it. So Josh braided my horse. And so I won dressage. And when we were out on the marathon, we were going and we were in our third obstacle, the water, and my horse ran underneath the bridge and he tripped on the water and fell down and he disappeared. I mean, he went all the way underneath the water.
All the way under the water?
Yeah, like we didn't see him. He was gone. And I yanked up on the reins and he leaped back up and we were on the way to gate A. And he drove the whole obstacle shaking his head because he had water in his ears. But so we had a decent marathon. So going into cones, we were in third place. We were in bronze medal. Jacques Poppin, who is like the reigning world champion in grade 1 right now, he was behind me in fourth. And then we had Lindsay, who's from the UK, was in second, and Heiner, German gentleman, was in first, who is really, really good. They all, both Lindsay and Heiner had driven in world championships too, and were tough. And so you go in reverse order. So Jacques went first and he hit a ball down. And so I knew we were like a point apart. So I knew I could hit a ball and I went second and I hit a ball. So so I knew I had balls, right? Because I had stayed in front of the fourth person.
Right.
So now I'm just waiting for the two people in front of me to go, and they have you go in really fast. So you've just come out and found out that you had one ball, and then the other person's in there. And Lindsay choked, and she had like 5 balls.
Oh dear.
I know, the poor thing. When she came out in tears, it's very sad.
Sure.
So then you're in silver.
Yeah. And you're like, okay, cool.
I know, cool. I moved up. And then the next thing I know, they're checking my horse's bit and the width of my carriage and stuff while all this is going on because it's moving fast, right?
Right.
And so I didn't know that I had gold until the steward came over and shook my hand and congratulated me.
No way! That's
because
so
I had
awesome.
because they hadn't announced it yet. And Kale was way over on the other side because she's doing double duty, right? She was like, and then she came over, she's running over to the side of where I was because she was trying to get our other competitor in there, right? She's a grade 2. And so then I won gold, and so I was so excited. And this was drive offs for winning cones.
Oh, no
And
way.
so Jacques and I were the only ones with one ball. And so it was in the Netherlands, and he's Dutch. And so this was,
So was he
I looked at Kale and I said, yeah, he was going to put on it's home crowd and everything. But I had Josh ride on the back for cones because I said, I'm going to go fast because I'm going to win this. So Jacques went, and I think he hit a ball, and then I went. And I just said, you know what? I've already won gold, right? What's there to lose? So I just made my horse go as fast as he could go. And I drove the cones, and I went clean. So I ended up, that was the best thing is I won cones too. So I won dressage and I won cones. And it was so exciting because it turned out I had quite a hometown crowd. Actually, Hardy was on the jury at that show. I had some friends from California had flown over to meet Hardy to look at horses to buy. So they were there for Cones Day. A gentleman that lives in California that had hooked me up with the guy that helped me for training camp while I was in the Netherlands. It was a guy that he stayed with for business trips. He was in town for business, so he was there to see me.
Oh, no way. So you had a big group of people that were like, oh!
I did. We're all from California. It wasn't just US. It was like, and there were people that I knew, right? I mean, that I personally knew. And so that was really cool. I mean, you can't beat that. And it was huge. It was one horse, Jasper, who then I shipped back in 2008, and that was when I was telling you about the carriage breaking down. And we got individual bronze then, and then I lost him that year. But he was one of those horses that the bigger the crowd, the better he is.
Oh, no, so he knew where he was, and he played to the crowd, and he loved the excitement. Oh, did I lose you? I think we lost you. Oh, no.
Yep.
Okay, are you back?
He says,
"Oh,
yeah.
I think you're going to
keep losing." Me?
Okay, that looks a little.
Is it? Is that better?
I think that's a little bit better. Ooh.
I don't know if.
No.
Yeah, I'm opening the door. No, better. Let me see here. If I do that. I
tried it being really right behind you. Yep, we're still here.
Okay. Maybe I can make it if I come in the house. There we go. I went ahead and turned the data off since I was at the house to see, because maybe it was conflicting. It didn't know whether to go Wi-Fi or data.
Yeah, no, I sometimes have the same trouble.
So, is that better?
Yeah, that's definitely better. Awesome. Thank you. So a couple other questions. So for your carriage, you do sit sort of in the middle of your carriage, not off to, like, you don't have someone sitting to the side. You use your own whip and stuff like that. Is that correct?
That is correct. I use my own whip and I sit in the center because the way the seat goes up and down, it needs to be in the center of the carriage.
And probably for weight distribution as well, correct?
Right, correct.
And then, so for when you're driving really fast, do you end up leaning? Do you have a harness that you use as well and a roll bar behind you?
Yeah, I don't have a roll bar. I use a 5-point harness because I would fall out. I didn't have it. And then I have side supports up like along my ribs.
Okay.
Um,
Do they get in the way of your arms moving, or that's just helping to support your body so you can
it
like?
supports, it's close to my body, but it keeps me from going side to side. Actually, on my pair carriage, I have little L brackets that were put on with padding, and they actually bent because of the centrifugal force of your body.
No way.
People don't realize, and so on my current single carriage, I had the whole side support was built into the frame of the seat
Okay.
to allow to be able to handle the force better. So yeah, you need it. People try to drive in my carriage and it all gets in the way of their arms, but
It works really well for you.
it works for me. You do have to get used to it. And like Tracy Bowman, who she's paralyzed, same thing. We first set her up with a seatbelt. She's all, oh, cool. And then she says, but I'm going side to side. And I said, yeah, you need the side support too. And so then you don't really realize that once all of a sudden you start turning, it throws your body to the side. And if you don't have the core strength to hold it, then you're kind of stuck a little bit. You're not going to fall out because you have the seatbelt, but you're kind of off to the side till you go switch direction.
Do you ever like push yourself back with like an elbow on your side supports then? Or like how do you get yourself back to being centered besides changing directions?
Well, because I have the side supports and the seatbelt, I don't move.
Oh, okay. So you're literally like locked in your seat, more or less.
I'm not gonna move. Yeah, I don't move. Maybe forward and back a little bit, and I have to tighten my seatbelt periodically.
Okay.
As you're driving, the shoulder straps I have to tighten. Usually before I start my marathon or after warm up.
Okay. Do you ever feel like your shoulder straps can be restrictive in your?
Of course. I mean, it means I can only shorten and lengthen my reins, or I'm based. I can't lean forward or back.
Right.
So it's all just my arms.
Okay.
I'm blessed. I'm 5'10". I have really long arms, and so and I've learned how to shorten my reins really fast.
Okay.
But that is an issue we have. Like, there's a couple of drivers, quadriplegic drivers we have that they drive with cuffs, and they also have the seatbelt, and they're really driving everything on a fixed rein length. And so that's very difficult. Downward transitions to hold, to collected trot, everything. You actually have to start with your reins really short and your arms way out to be able to have enough to come back with. So I shorten my reins, like before I go on the hazard, I shorten my reins up a lot.
I think most of us do that. I mean, we have like not set in our reins so that like you can know exactly where you're supposed to be at for hazard length. But like in between hazards, I usually lengthen out my reins, let my horse breathe, stuff like that, and then shorten them. Sometimes by like 3 feet, and depending on the horse, like my Dutch horse, it was like a 4 foot difference between his head up and his head down.
Yeah. Well, I will say, and there are certain breeds of horses that I would not recommend it based on your disability. Okay. And it has nothing to do with the mental, but it has to do with that neck. Okay. So Dutch horses, I mean, I've been driving Dutch horses. I have a Dutch horse, and I drove another Dutch horse who was really big for a while, that won a bunch of world championships. But they can go from, I mean, the difference can be 3 or 4 feet of length of rein from, when they're stretched out doing your lengthened walk to, oh my God, they spooked and turned into a giraffe, right? To shorten your reins enough to be able to do that. And so if you are quadriplegic or have to drive with a fixed rein length, you can't hold your reins, then you need a ponies work well, but oftentimes you need that second groom on the carriage. So then ponies don't work well. But small horses like Morgan's, a horse with not a very long neck, for that same reason, where you shorten and lengthen your reins.
Are there any other characteristics that you look for when you're looking for a driving horse for yourself?
Yeah, I just bought one. This last summer, I just bought a horse, and he's nothing what I was looking for.
So, what was on your list? And then tell us about the horse.
I know. Well, I told you I wanted a marathon horse,
Right.
and so, but I was just looking. My current Dutch horse is not very bold, and so he lacks confidence, and so he's not. It's hard in the hazards with him, and sometimes he lacks confidence at anything. I mean, when he's on, he's on. He's really, really good. But
When he's off, he's really off.
yeah, like 108 on a dressage test, and that was 10 months ago.
Oh,
But the next show, it was a 39. You know, so I'm sticking with him. He's 10 this year. So, anyways, but
another 4 years, he'll be amazing all the time.
well, if I sell him, someone's going to go advance with him tomorrow and like win, right? So I don't know. But so because I have limited resources, every horse in my barn needs to have FEI potential. Okay. And so whether they're there or not, they have to have the ability, but their mind is really important. They have to stand. So I've decided that I'll never buy a horse younger than 7.
Okay.
My current Dutch horse was 4 when I bought him, so this is why the 7. Because by the time a horse is 7 or 8, you kind of know what the horse is going to be. I mean, they've kind of gelled into, maybe they need more training or this or that, but they're also not completely set in their ways. But never younger than 7. I don't really have an upper limit on a horse, as long as they have the ability. I want something that's no taller than 15.3.
Okay.
And smaller than 15 hands.
Okay. So the A with the no smaller than 15 hands, they can still pull the weight. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And then no bigger than, did you say 16?
Well, I said 15.3.
15.3. Okay.
Because I do all my own harnessing and grooming. And I body clip my horses and everything. And so once you start getting, my current Dutch horse is 16 hands. I did have a horse given to me that was a Dutch horse that was 16.3. And so things like putting their blankets on and all sorts of things, every inch makes it more difficult. So size, and they have to have, they also have to have the talent to do the sport. They should be a decent mover. For dressage, they need to have the to go for marathon and cones, and you have to like them.
Because they are kind of part of your family and you spend a lot of time with them.
Right. So, and I've never been too breed specific. I really do like the cobs, but it's very hard to find a big cob that's not too drafty here in the States.
Yeah.
So I like the cob type. I like the Dutch harness horses, and I like Morgans. I mean, there's a lot that I kind of like, and so, but because this current Dutch horse I have is, the jury's still out on him.
For a couple months, right?
Yeah, I've been looking for another horse for about 5 years. I mean, just keeping my eye out, ear to the ground. And then that got slowed down because a gentleman gave me that other Dutch horse, and I rehabbed him from an injury and was going to show him and take him to the worlds. And we all know that was, I found him a home. I couldn't. I mean, I got him sound enough, but he wouldn't stay sound after he went to a show. So, meanwhile, I kept kind of looking. So I came across this horse last summer. He's red, and every horse I had in my barn was bay or black with 4 white socks. Okay, he was red and 1 white sock, and he's half Arab, half saddlebred. And I never dreamed I would ever own anything that was part Arab. And just never dreamed I would. And especially with a saddlebred. Okay. And then but he was 15.2.
Okay. So right size.
Right size, and his price was not out of the ballpark.
Okay.
And he was 7, so his age was good. And the best part, he was in California.
Okay. And did he already know how to drive?
And he knew how to drive.
Okay.
And so I sent the video to Sarah Schmidt, and she says, well, I'd like to see him. She usually just says no when I send a video.
That's so Sarah. Like, no, like, don't even, like, what are you thinking about?
and so she says, I'd like to see him on better footing. And I said, okay. And so I messaged the lady, and she said, well, she really didn't have better footing. And I said, well, can I come look at him? I'm going to be up. He was in Northern California, and I was going to be up in Northern California. We were doing a clinic. Actually, Sarah Smith was going to be at the clinic, and then a driving trial that she was judging. And so I was going to be up there. And she said, well, no, I have to work, or I'm going to Florida on the Monday or something, but I could bring him to Sargent's where we were going to be. And for her, it's a 2.5-hour drive for her to bring him there. And so I'm all, okay, cool. I'll pay you gas money. So she hauled him over, and I hitched him to my carriage, and I got in, and or actually I got in, and then they hitched him to my carriage, and then I drove him, and Sarah was there, so Sarah could take a look at him on better footing. And I guess her question to me after I had driven him, and we got him in the water, I mean, he didn't like it, but he went in, was, well, do you feel like you're gonna die?
Do you feel like you're going to die?
And
okay.
I said, no. And she says, well, that's a good thing. So anyway, so I vetted him. It was, on my way to a show, and I actually picked him up on my way back from a show in Oregon, and I bought him. And the thing that I found out after, you always find out these things afterwards, but is when we hung him up that day, he had not been hitched in 6 months. And he just did it. He didn't care. He was at a strange place that he'd never been to. I got to see him load and unload in a trailer. There was a bunch of things I got to see about him, and he stood, and he knew nothing about dressage. She mostly just trail drove and rode him and did a few clinics with him. But he was broke.
Okay.
Like, I could let anyone get in and drive him, and he's not gonna kill you or anything. He's broke. He just doesn't know what an outside rein is, and he doesn't know what a circle is, and he goes down crooked because he's spent a lot of his young years ponying babies, so he goes sideways down the trail. But, all of that's fixable, and all of that I could fix. Right. And so that's what I've been doing this winter, is fixing that.
Oh, that's so exciting to have an awesome project, though.
And he's fast.
Okay.
And he's going to be in the running for dressage.
Okay.
He's not a big fancy mover. He's a lot better mover now than when I got him. He has to push more from behind and stuff, but he can do it. But he's fast, and he has 5 gears at the canter.
Holy cow.
You ask him to go, and he goes. And he's not ever going to quit because he's half Arab.
True.
So he thinks dressage is for the birds, but he's gonna do he's gonna be a marathon and cones horse.
That's awesome. And
You
that's
know,
exactly what you were looking for, though. That's so cool
yeah.
that you found it.
Right. So it actually ended up being kind of what I wanted. He's the right size. He's lovely. That we drove him today because I had a neighbor help me drive that's never helped me drive before, and so we chose him rather than the Dutch horse who I've had for 6 years and who is really really good. But he likes to mug you. He likes to chew on you. He likes to, he's just busy. So
Mhm.
he can be intimidating. Whereas this horse just stands around like a little old cow pony. I mean, she did like endurance type stuff with him.
So
So,
he understands like going, and then stopping and standing.
right.
Yeah. So getting back to the going fast and taking chances, have you ever flipped over?
Yes, I have. Um, Multiple times, not in a long time, but I flipped over once in competition, and it was actually right the same year prior to meeting you. It was right before it because that year I did Live Oak and Southern Pines, and it was the show before Live Oak that I flipped in Arizona, and the gal that was going to navigate for me at Live Oak and Southern Pines was on the carriage in Arizona. And after that, she wouldn't. And so I actually had to coerce Josh into coming and navigating for me. But
Which is
I
probably
was,
an awesome godsend.
yeah, I was,
Josh is so knowledgeable and awesome.
and he was good because I was a little chicken and he knew I was chicken. And it turned out a lot of things were going wrong at the time. It was equipment. I had rubber torsion axles on my carriage, and the rubber was degrading, but we didn't really know it was. And so that made the carriage a little more unstable. My navigator, my horse was on the right lead, and the carriage was going to the right in the obstacle. And then he switched to the left lead, a flying lead change to make the next turn, but the carriage was still going to the right. But the groom went with the horse and went to the left. And the carriage slid a little bit on a bump. And so it was like the axles, groom moving too soon, and the slide with the bump. Like any one or two of those things, it would have been fine. But all of them together, I flipped over. My horse just stood there, and everyone hit them. And anyways, got me out of the carriage, and so I was. It was fine. I mean, I was a little sore. A little sore. My groom was a little sore, but it was okay.
Mhm.
I've had other instances. Well, you heard about the pig, so you heard about that. Why I started wearing a seatbelt was I was driving in the cart and I had my horse rear up and flip over backwards, and I bounced out of the carriage and was
Ooh.
in front of
Yeah, like
the,
in between the carriage and the
the
horse.
horse, but with facing sideways. So the shafts ended up over the top of me, and the horse's head was in my lap.
Oh.
Luckily, this was the Appaloosa that I raised as a baby, and she was perfectly content to lay there with her head in my lap.
Now, how did you fix that?
Well, I had a friend with me who was riding her horse, so she got off her horse, and I stepped her through unhooking. But I was in a freshly mowed hayfield, and I couldn't get enough purchase to slide out from underneath the horse's head because it was heavy. And
Okay.
so I told my friend she had to normally you wouldn't do this, right? To pick up the horse's head
Right.
so that I could get out from under it. She's all, well, the horse will get up. And I said, no, she won't. She'll just lay there. And she did. I mean, I knew this horse, right? And so she picked her head up, and I actually used the withers of the horse to push myself back out from underneath the horse. And then she put the head back down on the ground. And then she said, now what? And I says, well, no, ask her to get up. And so she did, and the horse just got up and stood exactly where she was. She didn't, because, I was still really close to where the feet might be.
Yeah.
And another time I was on a trail and the carriage went into a rut and it just tipped over.
Yeah.
But that was with the same appy, and she just laid there too. Again, like, this must be what we do.
It's fixed eventually. I just stay here.
But stuff does happen when I had a horse get a leg over a pole and not be happy about it. And then stepping brooms through, unhooking or whatever. My current Dutch horse, actually, I put him in the pair, and he liked to buck, and he'd get his leg over the pole, but he didn't care. He's like, whatever.
Buck again and get his leg back over, or would he just
we unhitched. My dad helped me, actually. My dad, it was here at home, and I said, okay, Dad. So I had him unhitch the other horse, who was my cob at the time, and I said, then once he was undone, then he undid the other one and undid the coupling reins. And I was holding the one horse, and then he actually led the other horse forward, and the pole just went between his legs and the yoke and everything, and he didn't care. He's like, yeah, whatever. As long as I'm not working, I'm okay. And then I had to step my dad back through hitching him back up because, we needed to get back. Someone else, my dad was not a horse person. If there'd been a horse person, they probably could have just picked the horses like that and put it back over, and it would have been fine. Like unhooked the one horse.
Yeah, and then picked up the leg. But you never know with a hind leg, like he could thrash and kick the person. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
But
yeah, sometimes it's best to have very knowledgeable grooms.
Yeah, sometimes the more you know, the less you know.
That's right.
The more you don't want to know.
But stuff does happen, and you just have to figure it out. But that's one of the feelings, even though, like my one horse, I'm saying my Dutch horse, he's a little bit, he's a little spooky, he's a little this or that. He's never scared me. Because as long as I have a groom, but with him, I have to have a groom that's a horse person, because he scares himself, but he'll lead out of anything. So if he's too scared, all I have to do is put the groom down, and they just have to walk in front of him, and he's like, oh, okay, life's okay.
Yeah, I've got my person now.
But that is one of the reasons that I need to sell him, because in some ways that's more difficult for me to find that help with him. So
yeah.
He doesn't. So sometimes when I have non-knowledgeable help, I don't work him. I choose the other horse instead.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm glad the new horse is working out, though. I can't wait to see you guys start competing.
I know, he's so cute.
Oh, that's so awesome. Do our people have any other questions I see a couple. So Diane, for your comments, Jennifer Johnson says, you are amazing. And super team effort. And another, you are extraordinary. And Rachel Wessel says, this is awesome. And one of our other parents says, I'm watching on my TV.
Oh God, no. Oh my God, I probably have a helmet here.
You're fine. Totally. Me too. That's why it's all tied up. Yeah, no. So thank you so much for your time today. We've really enjoyed it. And thank you for being willing to do this. And I really appreciate everything that you've done to help out others as well that have come behind you, so that we can bring along the sport.
Yeah, so, the thing that I have, I spend a lot of time fighting fires, and I haven't had to fight as hard lately, but with a lot of times making sure that the rules always stay good, so that it's easy for someone who is disabled to just go compete in open competition. And what I love is that we have these new drivers and they're going out and it's not a problem. They're not hitting these roadblocks. They're it's easy for them. People are like, yeah, sure, no problem. We'll make this accommodation or we'll do this. And that's huge to me, that because that's what I want, right? It shouldn't be hard. And most organizers are very willing
Yeah.
to do what they need to do. So that's what I.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for all that you do for driving and for para drivers, for sticking with the rules, you know, and looking at FBI rules as well as USEF rules and ADS rules. So, and making sure that they all jive together so that everyone's on a fair playing ground. So it's much appreciated. And yeah, you're so fun to listen to as well. You've got great stories.
Oh, I've got a lot of them. And they're all good stories, you know. I will say that, it's really dangerous to encounter the Hungarian in the barn at 5 a.m. because they give you schnapps. So
that is not something that I would have thought about. 5 a.m. schnapps?
Yes, 5 a.m. schnapps, because their goal is they're gonna just, you know, schnapp you out, right? and they don't speak a word of English. So
they're just like, drink this flask.
Yeah, no, they got it, but they'll give it to you in a little cup and everything. So I mean, that was amazing to me. That was maybe my first world championships, and it was so funny. And I don't know, you know, Kitty came back from the barn. You gotta watch out. You know, so so yeah, there's a million of those little stories, but that's what makes it fun.
Definitely. Definitely.
It's too much work to not have fun.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a joy to be able to talk to you, and for our drivers to get to know you a little bit. So thank you for spending a good, I think, oh my goodness, we're at like 77 minutes. Holy cow. Oh, so thank you. This went by way too fast. So thank you.
Well, we're all sheltering in place, right? So what else do we have?
Seriously. Yeah. Yeah. We were just so I would like to try a wheelchair. So Rachel, for your question, we tried to go out to the barn earlier. However, her phone lost the Wi-Fi connection, so you weren't able. Diane's going to send some photos of her carriage later so that you can see what it looks like. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else have any questions for Diane? Okay. Excellent. Well, Diane, thank you so much. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. And I'm sure I'll talk to you in a month for USDFD stuff.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Bye.